Hello everybody, welcome to another video and welcome to part 2 of our mini-series where we are refreshing an old axe. In today's episode we're going to be cutting right to the point and we are going to be sharpening that axe to a razor's edge. In this episode, there are going to be some tools that I'm going to use that are going to make my job a little bit easier, but are not necessary to do this project by any means. At the bare minimum, you're going to want a file, you're going to want some sandpaper, a piece of wood, and a Sharpie. Now, if you want to splurge a little bit, I would highly suggest picking up one of these. This little angle gauge by Wiseman gives you all the different degrees of which you could be sharpening your axe head to. So the way that it's used is you just simply put the axe head into the gauge and you find the one that lines up best with what angle you have. So by putting this gauge on here, I can see that my actual cutting surface is at 22.5 and my cheek distance is closer to 17. If you're interested in picking one of these up, I will leave that down in the description below. Now, when sharpening an axe, angles are extremely important because a thinner profile is going to give you a sharper edge, where a little bit wider of an angle is actually going to give you more edge retention and less chance of chipping or damage when cutting. Now, there are two main areas that you're going to be focusing on, which are the cheek and the bit. If those don't sound familiar to you, feel free to click on this video so that way you can catch up on what all of the terminology for an axe is in last week's video. Now, depending what your axe is used for, that will change what kind of angles you're going to be using for your head. A axe tends to have a cheek profile that is around 13 to 17 degrees, where the actual cutting edge tends to be between 20 and 25 degrees. Once again, that gives you a thinner profile that allows you to cut, but also a little bit wider of a profile on the actual cutting surface for that edge retention. And now you may be thinking, well, that's two different angles. How do you keep those straight? Well, using the angle guide is a great way to do it, or you can actually just use your phone and a piece of wood or a piece of metal that you know is straight and angle your phone and use the level that's built into it to find out what angle you're sharpening at. Now, the last piece of sharpening an axe head that's important to know is that you're actually going to be going for a convex shape on the head. So where a concave shape curves in, a convex shape is slightly curved out. This is connecting the steeper and the more acute angle from the cheek to the actual cutting surface is going to give us a smoother area for the wood to pass by. If we have it too angular, there's going to be a lot more force being placed directly on the bit, and it's not going to give us that good split or that good cut when trying to pass through the wood. Now, this is super simple to add in. Pretty much all we're going to be doing is an extra step of filing after we find those two angles that is just going to smooth that transition in between the two. Now, with that being covered, let's get into the actual sharpening. Once the axe is fixed into position, you're going to be able to use your angle gauge and Sharpie to mark off where the head needs to be reprofiled at. And so this is a relatively mindless task of just grinding and filing away the extra material. So make sure that you're wearing your eye protection here. When the cheek profile is where you want it, then you're going to switch over to sharpening the edge of the bit at a steeper angle. Once again, somewhere between 20 and 25 degrees tends to be best. Now that you have your angles where you want them, you're going to need to smooth that transition area as we discussed at the beginning of the video, getting it into a convex shape. Now that all the angles are corrected, we have a pretty sharp shape. but we're going to need to get that as smooth as we can. So work your way up in grit with your sandpaper, starting around the 220 range or 400, and then work your way all the way up to 1,000 or even 2,000 grit. This is really going to give you a nice, smooth, and shined finish for your axe. Once you have everything polished there, you should have yourself one of the sharpest axes that you have ever held. And if you want to take it a step further, you can even use a leather strop to sharpen your axe to a true razor's edge. Okay, now that we have a sharp axe head, we're going to need to focus on the handle. In the next episode, we're going to be taking our handle and actually affixing that to the axe head so that we're able to use the tool. And we're also going to go over some of the finer points of what you should be looking for in an axe handle. If you haven't already, make sure to like the video, comment down below, and hit the subscribe button as well as the notification bell. That lets you know every time a new video comes out. Thank you guys so much for watching this video, and we'll see you in the next one. Feel free to click either of these videos or head over to the YouTube page and watch a playlist from start to finish. Thanks for watching.